But one thing that I really love about you is that you are open about like your past drug use that you've done in the sport, because so many people aren't. And there are a variety of reasons why people don't admit to it, but I was just wondering if you could elaborate more on, your history of drugs in the sport and your view on it too, because I mean, not that many people are willing to talk about it. So, and I think someone like you talking about it would really, really help, end the stigma that a lot of people have about bodybuilding.
So, so I was a natural competitor. I competed in drug tested shows, drug tested powerlifting meets. I won the lightweight bodybuilding division at the NPC Team Universe. Back when the winners would go off to the IFBB World Championships. We were drug tested. It was the only national level at the time drug tested show in the NPC. I had done a stint in the INBA and I won the Miss Natural Olympia. I was drug tested for every single show for that. And when I turned, well, I think the signs of low testosterone were starting a little bit before I turned 40. When I look back, in hindsight, and I look at it. And so I dealt with those symptoms for about a year and a half almost. And after I was 41, in January of 2013, I went to the doctor and got blood work done. I fought with my general practitioner on trying to get my testosterone levels checked, and they refused. They refused to do the blood work. And a lot of women run into that. So I had to go to a hormone specialist and change doctors and in order to get my blood work done. And I think, maybe if 5 years before I had gotten my levels checked and had known, on a regular basis to get checked, maybe I could have staved off my testosterone levels from dropping so low. Maybe not. I don't know if it's oh, sorry, my computer was doing something. I don't know if it, I actually think it was from years and years of not getting enough sleep on top of heavy dieting and everything. When I was teaching, I was competing. I was competing in the Galaxy Federation, and I mean, I was getting like 4 hours of sleep a night if I was lucky. So on a regular basis, I mean, I was teaching, and so you already don't get a lot of sleep. And I've always worked jobs where I'm working 10 to 12 hours a day, and I think that's another thing that I'm just at a point. People are like, work hard now, you can sleep when you die, and I'm like, you don't sleep now, you will die earlier. Um, but I I ended up because my testosterone levels were so low, I ended up having to get on to testosterone therapy. And I had never been on anything before that point. So we're talking, I started competing when I was 26. I started doing powerlifting when I was in college. So I was like 19. So if you go really way back to then, but as far as physique type of stuff, I from 26 to 41. So what is that? 15 years? I was an English teacher. I 15 years of my career. So I competed until 2018. So 15 years of natural use versus 4 to 5 years of drug use. For anybody who says drugs don't make a difference, oh, stop. If you can say that, then either you have crazy genetics, and you can't say genetics don't make a difference either, because they do. Or you started with drugs so early on in your competitive career that you are not aware of what it's like to go through things naturally for a sustained length of time and know quintessentially what the difference is between not being on drugs versus being on drugs.
What are some of the biggest benefits that you think really came to you really early when you started? What was some of the things that you noticed flat up? Like, was it just more endurance? You could work out longer. What were some of the things that you really think started to kick in once you started taking something?
No, so the thing with my so testosterone, even though my testosterone was low, I mean, I did powerlifting meets. I still broke records. I was breaking my own records, national records. I got ready for shows. I did a women's physique show. In fact, I got my national qualification for women's physique with my testosterone really low. So I was able to get lean and um, gain strength, and that's my body will perform no matter what. But I always was told you're too small. Like you're for bodybuilding, I was for figure, my lower body was too big and my upper body was too muscular and hard. I mean, that wouldn't go for now, the way figure is. And for women's, I mean, not women's physique wasn't out yet, but for bodybuilding, I was told I was just too small and not hard enough. And um, initially, just the testosterone itself, it was a size thing. I mean, I put on the upper body muscle that judges had been saying I needed to put on. And my strength didn't go like through the roof or anything because I'm already a strong person. So everybody does react a little bit differently to drugs. But in terms of size, when girls are told, get bigger, get bigger, get bigger, get bigger, you are asking girls to get on drugs. Like there's a point where you move at a snail's pace with putting on muscle. Like once you get past your initial getting in the gym and starting off, especially if you start off early, at some point it levels off and you just have these small increments of muscular gains. But you throw drugs into the mix, you may not be able to control where that muscle gain is unless you're very careful with your workouts, but you will gain size. That's a big part of what drugs are for, is to put on size and to try to stay as lean as possible while putting on the size. So I haven't gone through, and I'm not going to on here. It would be
No
on
problem. No
when I
worries. Yeah.
when I do my own podcast. Then I'll discuss everything that I do or have done because now I'm on just plain old testosterone. I will be on that for the rest of my life. But I will say this: every single thing that I did with steroids, it was all through my doctor. I had a prescription for everything. We had long talks. We discussed the pros and cons. We discussed dosage. We discussed absolutely everything. And I would do one thing. So when I did testosterone, well, I've done testosterone all this time. I have to. But I knew exactly um, what testosterone therapy did for me. When we added in other things in order to help with the hormone therapy, it was one thing at a time so that I knew exactly what that thing was doing and whether it was working or not, or what the side effects were. And I think that that is something that a lot of people don't do. They throw the kitchen sink. Like I compare it to if you, let's say, you get sick after eating chili, and that chili had just simply ground beef, kidney beans, tomatoes, and jalapenos, and water, and chili powder. You could probably assume that it was the beef that was the issue. Like you'd be able to, uh, you know, make a guess at it, an accurate guess, without too much trouble. But if you made that chili with beef and ground turkey and some brisket, and then you also put in three different kinds of beans and all different types of spices, some Tabasco sauce, and just on and on and on. You see where I'm going. Was it the beef? Was it the brisket? Was it the turkey? Was it the chicken stock? Was it this? Was it that? You don't know. What are you going to do? Go cold turkey and throw it all out? And when you're dealing with your hormones, you can't just quit things cold turkey either. I think that I would never have taken anything if I never had had to get onto testosterone therapy. And I may never have turned pro either. And that's, and that's being women's physique, where I went into women's physique at a time when those women's physique competitors wouldn't even be competitive with figure competitors now. The women's divisions have gotten out of hand. They just have. That opinion. I know some people are not going to agree, but
Well, and I've heard that a lot from people too, and I agree. Yeah, things have gotten a little out of whack. But lastly, I just wanted to ask you, when it comes to just the drug talk, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think people can do, or the industry can do, to make it healthier and safer for people? Because we've heard so many horror stories on here, or just seen from the public too, of drug use gone wrong, where people might take too much, and a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with people that might have like negative self images, where they just want more and more, people really sometimes take it to such an extreme level that it really hurts their health. And like you were talking about before, some people are afraid to wear masks, but they're doing all the other stuff to their body, which is 100 times worse. What do you think are ways that maybe not even the industry, but just in general, people could make it so that it's a little bit more known, but and it's a little safer too, so that people don't go to those extremes without knowing the result, like what could happen?
I think that the women who are competing need to take more ownership. Some people like to say, well, the judges shouldn't ask for this or that. But I say the judges are asking for whatever the competitors give to them. And when I was competing in 2017 and 2018, what I felt like I was in a contest of keeping up with the Joneses. So I don't know if I put this analogy up the last time on your show, but I'm fine with repeating myself. Um, So let's say you live next door to somebody and you are in competition with them. Like they go and they get a new car and let's say they get a Mercedes, top of the line Mercedes. So you're like, I'm going to get a Mercedes. Like you want to look just as successful as they are. And you get a C class Mercedes. No frills or anything because it's all you can afford. And even that is kind of pushing it. And then they trade in the Mercedes and they get a Land Rover. And then you go and you trade in your Mercedes and you get a baseline Land Rover. Like they went and they got some big one and then they go and they get a Porsche. I mean, you're still only able to do what you're able to do, and somebody else is always going to do more. And in bodybuilding, it's a lot of people are always going to do more. And then also, drugs impact different people in different ways. Some can do a little and get a lot out of it. Some have to do a lot and they get very little out of it. It just depends on. Again, you can't outwork. I mean, if you have bad bone structure, there's just nothing you can do about that. You can't change the length, the insertion points of your muscles. You can't change how your muscle sits on your bone. You and just growing muscle is not the answer necessarily. Um, but if everybody goes to the extreme in building extreme lats, extreme shoulders, extreme everything, and getting extremely dry, extremely lean, and nobody says, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. I'm going to show up the way I think the division is meant to be. And not enough girls do that. It's always going to go to the extreme. Bodybuilding is an extreme sport. It's an extreme sport for extreme personalities who typically have either a void in their life or have some psychological thing that they're trying to deal with. And that's why they're a part of this. And nobody wants to sit and say, wait a minute, why am I putting these things in my body? What am I going to get out of this? Is this really like I had to sit back and go, is this really how I want to look, or have I gotten caught up in what others want me to look? And I realized I never wanted the upper body mass that judges were asking for. And judges were asking for that because I was on stage with other girls who had way more upper body mass than I did. And so I look at my fellow competitors and I say, are you aware of how your decisions affect others? And I think that what happens is some competitors say, I don't want this anymore and I'm going to step away. And then it leaves the really extreme. And so I do have like a series of questions that I think women have to ask themselves. And a lot of it is what do I truly want for my body? For now, for 5 years from now, for 20 years from now. What am I willing to do? What risks am I willing to take? What do I think is worth? And what do I not think is worth it? And then I think that in the fitness industry, competitors do a real disservice to each other when they tout themselves as being just so boss girlish and so, ooh, I'm tough and I'm a beast and I'm so incredible and I stand taller and the reason why I'm better than you is because I work harder. No, you chose to work hard in one element of your life, and I chose to work hard in another element of my life. Doesn't make one of us better or the other one better. But that attitude of seeing that over and over on social media, and I think social media is a huge problem. And it's seeing it over and over in social media, you make somebody go, oh, I need to work harder and do more. And then there are coaches, usually male coaches, who are saying, well, if you want to look like that, then you have to get on this and this and this. And for most, unless you really do have a hormone problem and have a doctor that um, you can trust and work with and who is knowledgeable, you're not going to get those things legally. And then you are running into issues of, are you getting what you think you're getting? Are you getting the dosage of what you think you're getting? If you start having some different reactions to it, maybe it's not what you thought it was. And then also, just because one girl was able to take something and not have side effects, that doesn't mean you are going to be so lucky. And you don't know how many cycles in it's going to take before you do get those side effects. And then you don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now and how your decisions for your body now are going to affect you 10 years from now. Bodybuilding is not healthy. It's not. There are foundations and aspects to it that are healthy. But there are so many elements to it that are not healthy. It's not healthy to the body and it's not healthy to the mind. And you have to go into it and understand that and know that you're it is a little bit of a Hunger Games. You're going to go in, you're going to try to just, save yourself and try to get back to the capital and live the rest of your life.